Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. My buddy Rhett. I got an almond for her. Put that over here. I don't know why she's in that corner over there, but she was off to the side. All right. So there's this amazing book that is just really good. If you're a computer programmer, and there was also a movie, and it's called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, I think it is, or the Galaxy. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or Universe. I can never remember. But it is such a good book for computer programmers because they spend a lot of time talking about like miscommunications because of vocabulary and abstractions and things like that and in no way, shape, or form do they come at them from a computer programming perspective. They come at them from like a human life perspective. Sort of bridges the gap there because we have a lot of regular problems that people in regular human life have, but they have the exact same problem in regular life, but they don't. Um, but it's not as obvious. So, anyways, let's see. It is March 25th, 3/25, 2026. It is 8:50 a.m. So I only have 5 minutes for this video. I'm like my problem is that like my brain is just going through something that they do a really good job of sort of demonstrating in that movie slash book, and it is that like I'm relearning something that I thought I understood, but I don't, or I didn't understand completely. But I am currently dealing with this idea where this inject. So to me, inject was a um, it was a function that just gives you the gives you access to a singleton service. So a singleton service is a function is a service that like across all components and all other services, there's only one of it and they all get a reference to that when they share it. If it wasn't a singleton, then everybody would get their own version of it. So a singleton service, you can use this inject function to get a reference to it, and then you can use it. You can call functions and stuff like that. But the most important part is you have to realize that the inject is maybe not named right. Maybe it should be dependency inject because you are injecting an actual dependency. You're saying I am dependent on this. And Angular, and there's really not. I don't think there's like a academic or theoretical or anything reason for it, but Angular can't let two things depend on each other. Only one thing can depend. You A dependency can't like you can't have a two-way dependency. You can't have like recyclable sequence service also be a dependency for scene service, or right. I'm saying, hey, this st scene service has a dependency and it's the recyclable sequence service, but the recycle and so I can't go into the recyclable sequence service and then make st scene a dependency because then you get a circular dependency error. Okay, so you only because you get the practical error, not because there's something wrong with two things dependent on each other. It's just a thing in Angular, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a thing. Um, so it would be really nice if they had like a if this was D inject and then they also had a R inject for runtime inject, so or C inject for code time or function time or something like if they had another word and then that would basically basically wrap this injector and get the token at the time. But I think what happens is when you go back and you like dig into like dependency injection in general, you typically um, don't allow that kind of thing. Like where I mean that the whole point of dependency injection is that it's um, like it changes, right? Like it's variable. It's not the same dependency. So like just because right now recyclable sequence, like another example of dependency injection would be like if I made this a function that I pass in to, like if I made this an argument and then I passed recyclable service into this function as an argument instead of being at the top there. And that would be like sort of another idea of dependency injection. But the whole point is that I would be able to, as long as I passed an argument of a class that had what this thing was looking for, I could use it. See that the whole idea of dependency injection is that the dependency can change, I think. So that's why like things get really weird, I think. I'm not sure. But anyway, so we have this working and now we got it to actually do what we wanted so we can delete this scene. But now we realized, oh, we need to do something very similar for the meshes. So I need the mesh. I need to be able to call a function in the mesh, right? Which is fine because I actually do have an instance of the mesh. The mesh service is actually a dependency of this. Should it be a dependency? I don't know. I just don't know. I'm thinking about it. That's kind of what my brain is just spending tons and tons of time right now is like, should ST mesh service be a dependency? Or should it be like used in some other way? Um, as opposed to as a dependency. And it's probably the answer is some other way, but I don't know that this is how we are now. So, anyways, uh, and this is kind of a question that is going to slow me down, right? Because like now, anytime I go to bring something in, I'm going to be like, is this actually a dependency? And if it's not a dependency, well, then how should I get access to it? Because it's not a dependency. I just want access to it. Um, and that is like kind of, I think that's an unknown path that I'm sitting on right now that I'm trying to figure out. And I don't really want to just blow by it. But anyways, so I should be able to say this dot st mesh service dot delete mesh for scene ID. I think that is sort of the pattern that I've found myself in. And so then you pass it in two things, and one is the mesh ID, and the other is the scene ID. And so now the mesh needs to make sure that it isn't being used by another scene. And in the future, maybe even some other thing altogether. But for now, we just need to make sure that it's not used by another scene. But that is probably going to become more complex in the future. I'm um, probably going to need to um, update like the code because there's going to be a delete mesh or so then I don't know. And see now I'm thinking even this see because I have this delete, but maybe this in the future delete scene by ID might have to do additional code to determine if it still should be deleted. Right now the whole general idea is that you're going to call delete scene by ID for ST renderer and then if it's not being used by another renderer, but what if it's being used by some other thing completely? I guess that logic will go here, but I don't foresee that happening. So anyways, so tomorrow I'm going to add this delete mesh for scene ID to the mesh service. I'm just like going to save it broken like that. So it'll be kind of easy tomorrow to come up to speed. But basically I want to go in there, add this, and basically do this pattern, right? Where I delete the scene by the ID and then it checks this. It's going to have to check back to this to see if there's any other scenes using it. So get scenes for mesh ID, and then that's going to go through and find any scene that is using that mesh, and then it's going to return a list of those, and then all that. So, and then we're going to end up doing the same thing for animations. But anyways, happy coding, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.